All right, I think we're live here. Let us know in the chat, fishing friends, what's happening. Welcome to another live. Tonight, man, tonight was kind of last minute. I went fishing today. Got home at like I don't know 3 something, and as soon as I got home, started working on the deck, ripping apart our old deck, adding stairs. It was a lot of fun. Thank gosh. Special shout out to Pops. I don't know if he's still here. We just got done doing the stairs right at dark. But I can't thank Dad enough for all the help on that because he's the carpenter, not me. So sorry we're a little late. I was also having camera problems. I'm back to the old webcam. I can't get the nice new fancy one working right, so I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that tomorrow. But for right now, we got me, Gramps, and Dizzle. Dizzle, what's up down there? How are you?
Living. I mean, I caught a 3+ pounder today. It was a pretty good time. Only fish I caught, it was super, super, super windy. And just throwing a little black and blue jig with a green trailer.
Oh, green pumpkin.
No, just like a regular, I don't even know what color green it was. It might have been a green pumpkin. I don't know what Rage calls it, but yeah.
Bioluminescent algae green.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. I like it. Gramps, how about you? What have you been up to today? Anything crazy?
Today has been all about getting ready to go to Kentucky Lake tomorrow, where my brother, my buddy OEF5, and I are going to be spending from Sunday till next Sunday fishing Kentucky Lake, but we're also going to be there for the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship. So,
oh my.
Yeah, I've spent the last couple of days revamping. I had some repairs to do to my trailer and some things to swap around because everybody who's been following along with my kayak fiascos this last season, I'm now into the new Old Town. I call it the Kayadillac, but I had to retool my trailer to haul that thing around. So I got that done, plus fixed a busted taillight. I already see somebody commenting about the Phillies winning. Good on them. My Braves ran out of gas. But yeah, we're heading out. We're heading out first thing in the morning, and it's one of those things where you're packing for a big trip. You're going to be gone for a week, and yeah, I've pretty much got a lot of things done. But my goal was to sort all of my tackle and get everything ready, and I ended up just throwing it all in a box, and I'll do it tomorrow night when I get down there because I just ran out of time. But I mean, I pretty much got everything ready to go. I've got hooked up by American Legacy Fishing. I've got pretty much all brand new rods and reels that I'm going to be testing and doing demos on, mostly in the Shimano Corrado line. I'm going to take my beloved Zillion, but it's going to be in a backup roll. And this time it's going to be all Shimano and G Loomis rods with those Corrados. So we're going to be playing with some of American Legacy's upper end stuff for the rest of the season and into the spring. But yeah, the championship itself is going to be something. And I planned on making this like a fishing vacation until I got
that
asked.
Sounds fun. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I mean, that was my goal going down with the whole, hey, I'm just a YouTuber and I'm here to make. And then my brother and I got invited to join a pro team, if you will, for fighting for the corporate team cup. So now we're going to have to put our serious faces on and actually, try hard. So yeah, it'll be the first time we've kind of done this, but it'll be fun. So we're gonna do our best and try to put as many fish in the boats as we can.
That sounds like a dang fun time to me. Listen, I got to thank all of the supporters in here, such as Mr. Randall Williams Sully. Good sir, I did get your package. I was going to message you the other day. He actually took a trip overseas and thought of Debo and bought me a couple little gifts and sent them. Those are the type of people that make me very humbled by this experience. People would go on vacation overseas and be like, "Oh, I should get Debo something." Like, what the hell? It's crazy. But listen, I thank you all. Mr. Brando's in here. Says time to slam jam. Me and Brando actually hit the water today. And his saying was slam jam, which I have no idea what in the hell it means. He was making up stuff, and he was taking me to random spots, pretending like there were going to be fish there, and it was something else. So thanks, Brando. Let's see. Rob's in here. We got G-Fan Kim. I saw Dustin, Creek and Trails, all kinds of supporters. There's Mr. Jeremy Hickman, Jeremy Breed. Okay, MV. Oh my gosh, how do you say it? MV. I'm just gonna call you M1976. Can't stay for live chat, but wanted to drop some love for the double D's, Debo and Dizzle. Catch the show later. Well, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you. Have fun doing whatever you're doing tonight. I saw a couple of people said they were pouring a dad pop, and somebody said they were at closing at Chipotle and watching some Debo while they were closing. Y'all crack me up. I'm just happy that I can still be here, do this, hang out and talk fishing. Like I've said before, I never don't look forward to doing a live. It's just us talking about stuff. In fact, tonight we're going to be talking about us three knuckleheads are going to put our heads together, which you already did beforehand. That's why we were a little late, and I had camera problems. But we're going to talk about beginner lures. So I wanted to kind of get on track a little bit. I was talking with the Burley boys, and a lot of times I just jump on here and we're just, shooting the wind and talking to each other about stuff. And those are fun, but I want to try to have more of these put together for people to watch and try to get something out of it. We're going to kind of mix them up. We're still just going to have fun ones, answer questions. I think that's what's fun for part of the lives is just there's no, it's not like we're learning. We're just hanging out and being us. Like you get to actually know us. Mm-hmm. So maybe people like that. Maybe it'll hurt my channel. I don't know. I'm kind of running in my own lane, trying stuff, and we'll see. But tonight, 8 lures. So I'm going to start off with the first one. My number one lure for a beginner is a Texas rig. And I say this because as a bank angler, somebody struggling to figure out lures and what to throw, this was one that came up in my list because as a bank angler, you don't want to be getting snagged all the time. You don't want to be trying to figure out, okay, how do I work this? What am I doing with it? A Texas rig, you can throw it around wood, let it sink. You can throw it around, big rocks. You can pitch it under docks. You can swim them back. So I know this isn't a lure, and I'm sure people are going to say, well, you're cheating. That's not a lure. I'm putting it in the lure category because if anybody was throwing a Texas rig and I asked them, oh, what were you catching all those fish on? They'd say, oh, a Texas rigged blank. So I would usually go with a 3/0 or 4/0 EWG hook, probably a 1/4 ounce weight, tungsten weight. I know for a beginner, you're probably going to be losing a lot, but the size of tungsten is just, it's so nice because you're not having these big, huge pieces of lead. So you might spend a little bit more on that, but it's compact. You can just get in and out of places a lot easier, I think. And then your plastic. So for the plastic, I'm going to pick, and we all maybe we'll pick our own. I'm going to say some sort of small compact thing with a bunch of moving appendages, or just at least a couple. So I would say like a rage craw. When it comes to mind, you can flip it. It's got action. You can swim it, like a rage craw or a pit boss. Mm-hmm. Have it pit boss. I used to throw those a ton. So that's going to be. How about you guys? If you were going to help a beginner out, a little weighted Texas rig, what would you guys say? Try these
on a Texas rig.
Mm-hmm. On a Texas rig.
I actually have some stuff here with me. I've really been digging on these. They're the oh man, you can't see that, can you?
Oh, these punch bugs?
Yeah, the punch bugs. I really like the action these things get, and the durability is insane. So it's just a real simple, nothing too crazy. The pincers pull apart, and you get, that rage action on those. I really, really dig on those. I have been free rigging those a lot, and they've worked out really well, But yeah, I would say something along the same lines. Some sort of craw imitation. I know I started out when I first started throwing a Texas rig. It was the what was it? The good old chigger craw.
Yep. How about you, Gramps? If a beginner comes up to you and is like, what Texas rigged, weighted Texas rig should I use?
Normally I would say like a 7-inch power worm, blue fleck, black, red shad is always another favorite, but I like the fact that you can, cast and retrieve and kind of swim it. You can pop it. You can drag it through a little bit of everything. A lot of people jump up to 10-inch when it gets hotter, in the year, but a good 7-inch power worm. It's one of the few Berkeley products that if I had to choose any one worm, I've always been about the Berkeley power baits. And, when we're talking about stuff like this, I always stick with things that I can basically find in your local Walmart, Real King, things like that. There's always that staple of baits that any of those stores that are in everybody's hometown that you can always go find them and, get started fishing.
So Leanne was a winner. For the people that say, there was one guy in here a while back saying, this guy never sends out his packages, he's a sham. I'm like, dude, I've sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of stuff to people. That's not a brag. That's just, don't be a clown. So there we have, for example, Leanne saying she got her package. Leanne, awesome.
And it's not just that one package you had to send to Canada.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, I finally got it back. He actually hit me up. Who was that? So I had to send a package twice, so it cost me almost $100 once it was all.
Oh, that was the members one, right?
That was the Daiwa Zillion that I did, the big giveaway, and ended up kicking me in the butt. I think it was Philip. Yeah, Philip was the winner up in Canada. I think it was like $44 and $45 to send it, so basically $100 extra bucks. So I saved nothing from getting it JDM, and the whole thing was kind of funny. But
I love all my northern brethren, but my contests are only for the lower 48.
Dude, I think I might start having to do that because it's kind of a pain. Like, or I'm just going to do a gift card. Actually, I'm going to pull an Audible and say, if I get somebody that wins in Canada, you're just getting a gift card. It'll be like a note in the bottom.
I saw Mr. Bass does that, and that's a really good idea.
Oh, really? Yeah, dude, because I'm like, I'm not sending stuff. I'll just send you an email, and you can get whatever you want with it.
Yep.
Big Belly Bassin said, Dizzle says, put a black and blue jig on a Texas rig from Guggen. Dizzle, do you ever Texas rig your jigs?
Oh, I've never Texas rigged a jig. I've free ridden a jig though.
Let's see. Yeah, I bet you actually have. Instead of using the weight, you just put a jig under it. Then you have the free. Dude, you should try that. Put the free rig plastic above a jig.
Above a jig, huh? And do it like
the double Dizzle rig.
What's it called?
Ooh. Oh, and instead of the free rig, instead of the plastic there, just put a jig through the line. So there's a jig running up and down the line, plus a jig tied to the bottom. So you got two jigs bouncing after each other.
If you think about it,
so I could
you could actually take like a drop shot hook.
Snagged, I could.
Yeah, you could do.
When I snag it, I can lose like $8 instead of $4.
Hey, go big or go home, Dizzle. Kirk. Oh man. Okay, sorry, we digress. Kirk says, "What product to clean up rod gunk once the season ices out?" So are you talking about like you're cleaning up your rod and reel once you're done and ice out? The best is rubbing alcohol because it doesn't sit there and rust; it evaporates. So like when I take my reels apart or my rods, take a Q-tip, dip it in rubbing alcohol, clean all your eyelets out. Take a Q-tip or like a little cloth, clean out your rod, like where the reel seat is. Same for the reel when you clean it up, take it apart and clean it. Rubbing alcohol, man. It's the way to go. So let's see. We got people talking about some lures. Hell is in here. Dizzle wanted to say Bandito Bug 100%. I know he did. He actually texted to me. He's like, you're not going to be mad if I say Bandito Bug, are you? I'm like, bro, you can say whatever you want. Yeah, he didn't. So it's all right. We still love you, Randall. Let's see. People saying, hey to everyone. I love that everybody talks to each other while we're in here. Talking, hanging out. Oh, Johnny Granville got his package. I got my package from Debo, and it was nice. Awesome. There's Philip. He received the Zillion reel. My Canadian brother up there. The reel. Oh my gosh, what a debacle. See, look at that. I've got multiple people in here that are winners. Cooler Lid is another winner that just won. Look at this. Coming out of the woodwork. Love it. Okay, so let's go. So that was number one, Texas rig. Hopefully we all kind of agree on that one. Number two, I had to put this on here for Randall, a jig. Now I'm going to kind of differ because I think you can kind of look at a jig different ways. So I will just start out and say that for me, the first jig that I gained confidence in was a swim jig. And not necessarily like your pointy-headed swim jig, just kind of like an archy head jig, swimming it. But like an archy head is great. It's kind of like a rounded, kind of like a smushed ball almost head jig. You can flip it around wood. You can swim it. And that's really what I got comfortable with, just casting it out, swimming it, really essentially working it like a spinnerbait. But Randall or Gramps, one of you want to go next? What jig did you first get confident with? I think we know Randy's answer.
Yeah, I mean, you know my answer, but I would agree, Debo, real quick, a jig similar to, something like that is a good swim jig starter, I feel like. It comes through stuff pretty well. Sorry, I have show and tell stuff tonight, so.
Oh,
Dude,
my
I love
stuff
it.
is in
Show
the
and
back
tell
of
all
the
you
truck.
Ooh, fishing for potatoes. Yes, I missed last month, so I'm gonna have to make up this month and do something fun. Gosh, I got to get on those. It's just tough with my regular schedule. I was trying to get back to 3 videos a week, and I'm struggling to get 2. So I'm doing what I can, man. Hopefully next week I'll have one. If I don't, come to my house and kick me in the shin. Gramps, how about you? Jig. What jig did you first get comfortable and confident with?
It was probably a Strike King jig that I've found at Walmart. The funny thing is, back in my tournament days, I based pretty much all of my baits off of things that I could find at Walmart because the FLW tour was working with and partnered with Walmart back then. But any town that we would go to, if I needed to go resupply, I could always hit a local Walmart and find my stuff. So that's why I was never really a specific brand guy unless it was, Zoom, Striking, Berkeley stuff that you could find at local Walmarts. But I always loved the Bitsy Bug and put small like creature bait or small crawl trailers on it. I'm that guy who likes a really light falling, slow falling jig. Because it seemed like anytime I threw anything any heavier, I was getting hung up in anything with the lighter jigs. Seemed like I always just got bid on. But I'm like, that 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce kind of guy. I don't really throw. I don't even know if I have a 1/2 ounce jig or bigger. That's just kind of my favorite kind of range right there.
I know I don't at all.
But
It definitely differs.
I'm the one who really likes like the archy head shapes because I love skipping jigs, under docks, under overhangs, things like that. That's just one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is it definitely differs for bank fishing versus boat fishing. So like in a boat, usually like a 1/2 ounce is what I'll just kind of gravitate toward and just flip that around and swim it. It doesn't rise too quick. But from the bank, if you're throwing a 1/2 ounce out and letting it settle in the rocks and stuff, man, you're going to be getting snagged all the time. So like from the bank, a 5/16 is my favorite. Like if I'm fishing rock and stuff, because you're usually fishing generally, I would say 8 feet, or shallower most of the time from the bank. So you don't need it to get down there real quick. A lot of times when you're picking up a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4, you're wanting it to fall straight down and get down to the bottom. Whereas, and this actually could kind of go for the Texas rig too. If you notice they're hitting it on the fall, you might want to go lighter, right? So you might want to go to a 3/8 or a 5/16, because if every single time they're hitting it on the fall, you can dictate how fast that lure is going to drop, either a jig or a weighted Texas rig, by how heavy that weight is. So that's why I just said kind of like a 1/4 ounce to start for a Texas rig. And then
since we're talking about for beginners, Pong Yang asked a great question. He's like, what rod actions do you use for jigging? And I actually have 2 different complete setups just for that. One's a medium heavy fast action that's in the 7 to 7.3 range. And then I've got a heavy fast action if I'm, going, but like for the super light jigs and things like that, that's where I like that medium heavy. And then around thicker stuff, that's when I generally will go to a heavy.
Yep. And that's really how I dictate too. The heavier, grosser, yuckier stuff you're around, that's when I go up to a little bit heavier rod so I can get them turned out and away before they get in there. You can get away with, you could fish a jig on as long as you can, it's a wire that's light enough. You could fish a medium as long as it's a lighter wire and be fine. But if you're fishing a medium rod with 10-pound line, and as soon as that fish gets you into something, that's where you're screwed. So you have to kind of think of 2 things. One, is my rod powerful enough to penetrate that hook? And that depends on the line you're using. Because if you're using mono, you're going to have to set that hook a lot harder than you would if you use braid. And Gramps, I know that's probably what guys talk about in the kayak stuff is I think a lot of guys kind of gravitate toward braid, so you can just kind of pull into them. You don't have to, have this big hook set from like the guys in the boat where they're digging in. And I know I've heard some people, kayak people, say that.
Yep. I mean, even though I'm still pretty much 95% fluorocarbon only, I do have braid on like 2 rods. One's the frog / punching rod, and then my old man eyeballs spinning rod. I have high vis line on with the fluoro leader just so I can see the line moving a little bit better.
Frank, my guy Frank, always got to shout out my guy Frank. Yeah, Frank, are you in Canada? Oh, I'm sorry. If I ever do a giveaway, I'll have to just send you a gift card or something. Frank has been my talking about Fudge Stripe. Fudge Stripe is doing amazing. I'm actually having a ball raising that fish. That's my green sunfish, for anybody that doesn't know. But Frank has been a huge help. He was in the aquarium business, has been basically my secret helper with all that. So Frank, appreciate you a ton, man. I'll get you some baits or a gift card or something, because it'll cost me $87 just to send you a bait. But we'll get something figured out, my man. I appreciate you a lot. Let's see. Okay, so we got the 1 and 2. Number 3, I put this on here for Gramps, and it might not even need to go on here because he actually said 4. So we're going to say 3 and 4 together. 4 was going to be mine. 3 I put in on here for Gramps because I figured for sure it was going to be his, a Chatterbait. Number 4, he said I actually would have picked this one, and that was going to be one of my top 2, was a spinnerbait. So 3 and 4, Chatterbait and spinnerbait. And I kept them both on because I think it depends on where and how you fish. So if you fish lakes that are full of grass, where you can fish grass edges, you don't have a ton of wood, you're kind of bouncing it over rocks, a Chatterbait is awesome. Chatterbait will work all day, every day. Chatterbaits suck around wood unless you use something like the cross eyes, or the slobber knocker actually does pretty good. But if you're around a bunch of standing timber and, bigger, larger wood, and I'm not talking like the super thick brush stuff, but most standing timber and larger like wood, logs and stuff, a spinnerbait is amazing. But spinnerbait sucks in grass because it gets tangled up. And so that's why I kept them on. What do you guys think? Is that accurate? Anything to add or take away?
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at spinnerbaits as spinning rod bait caster, doesn't matter. Cast it out as far as you can and, just start reeling. It's to me one of the most versatile, just catches them, with trailer, without, like I said, I like a Chatterbait because I can put a bait on it and skip it up under places, but a spinnerbait, I mean, to me it's just like one of the all-time, especially beginner bass fishing. Hell bass talking about frogs. That did not make my top list of anything still. But I mean, a spinnerbait it's just like, it's just like the old rooster tails and other things like that. You can just, chuck them in and whine. And if you're like my granddaughter, I got one, if she'll sit there and hold a bobber. The other one, all she wants to do is reel. Cast again, Grampy. Reel. And so that for her, the little finesse spinnerbait is going to be her thing. I can't wait to get her on the water next spring because she's going to be old enough. She's going to be old enough to be in the boat, and I know a spinnerbait will probably be what she catches her first bass on.
That was the same as me. That was cast it out. Really, it's just play with your depth and retrieve speed. I mean, you can add little pops into it, but it's one of those where you don't have to like find this magical way to work it. Cast it out. Cast it as close to cover as you can. And speaking of like little finesse spinnerbaits, Randall, how about you and little tiny finesse spinnerbaits? What was your experience with those?
Yeah, my first 5+ pounder came on a tiny micro spinnerbait. It was just one of those perfect casts, went up underneath the trees right next to the shoreline, and this bass just crushed it. And this thing was, when I got the bass on the shore, it looked like some crazy bait you'd never seen before because it was like bent perfectly straight from the fish. The line had slid up to the blades and bent the entire thing out. But yeah, perfect thing. And the only other thing I know about spinnerbaits, or the thing that I learned, I guess I should say, with spinnerbaits, is you can alter or vary your retrieve. And that kind of helped me understand like yo-yoing or like popping it, getting the feel of, jerking it out of the weeds and stuff like that. And it really helped me anyway understand or feel the differences in retrieves and what you can do with different lures.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Randy, because fishing a jig or a worm, I know when I was younger, I got really frustrated because I couldn't tell if I was hitting stuff or it was a bite. I could never tell. And it would just frustrate the hell out of me. And that's actually why I went to a spinnerbait. So for beginners out there, for any of these lures that we're talking about, spinnerbaits, Texas rig jigs, go to somewhere shallow where you can see exactly what you're in. Close your eyes and cast over that log or that rock and bring it over it and feel what it's like to kind of get snagged in it. It's places, where you can get your lure in case you do get snagged. But that's what I started doing when I was younger. I would go out to these ponds and stuff and throw it over wood and be like, okay, I'm coming over this wood. It's just a slight tick. Or if I feel like a little bit of pressure on it and I stop and it doesn't move, I remember that was like a big aha moment for me, which seems stupid as hell. But if I'm like if I think I'm by a bush or I think I've got a bite, just pause for a second. And if it doesn't move, 9 times out of 10, it's not a fish, then you're like, oh, okay, you're on something. But if you're throwing around a Texas rig and you're kind of dragging it and you feel like a tick, tick, and you just kind of take up that line, you're going to feel that fish move a little bit, or you'll see your line physically moving. Yeah. So I know those are things that help me as a beginner, just paying attention more to that and learning what that bite felt like. Tracks, what's the best way to use a jig as a jig beginner? We actually want to do, I know Randy's talked about that. We're going to do a whole live on that. I think that'll be a fun one just to talk everything jigs. Nothing but jigs, swimming jigs, skipping, arky, how to work them, where to work them, what combo, line, time of year.
That's when you have Jig Squad on.
We'll have Jig Squad, Randy, man.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like pretty much everybody that have on is always like, oh, I love jigs. And Randy's like, oh, I'm in love with you. I love you guys. And I'm just sitting here like, I love frogs.
Where's the frog?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have to start the Frog Squad.
Hey, I'm the only member. Let's see. Okay, so we got through.
Yeah, me and Randy will be over there with Jig Squad.
Yep. Yeah, you guys can do your own live. I'll do my own Frog Squad live. You nerds can do your own.
It'll be
okay. So number 5,
the viewer will be Debo himself, like logging into his computer separately to watch
hey
himself.
guys, we're gonna talk
one person watching.
He's donating to himself right and left. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of donates. You guys don't have to do this.
Oh, shout out to Debo with $100. That's real generous of you, Debo. Pat, I like this. Pat actually put his top 8 in there. That's kind of fun. T-rig. Oh, everything was a T-rig.
Yeah. And then he ended it with lipless.
That's kind of like Randy. Jig, 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 jig.
Well, because there's all the different kinds of jigs.
Okay, so let's see. So number 5, this is actually Gramps. So Gramps, I'm going to let you take this one. Number 5, Gramps said Fluke. And I was actually going to say Fluke / stick bait, because we're talking, are you talking like a Texas rig Fluke? Gramps?
Yeah, I mean, I would, because we talked about a Fluke and a Senko. I wouldn't wacky rig a Senko, but I would have, a stick bait, you could fish it. So, I mean, Texas rig, we'll get to that one, but with a Fluke, I think one of the great things about it for a beginner, again, when I've talked to people about your first couple, you're probably going to, most of us end up when we started out, you probably had either a couple of spinning rods, one that was medium, one that was medium heavy, or you might have started with a spinning reel, combo, and then also a bait casting combo. But most everybody has a spinning combo in there somewhere. The great thing about a Fluke, by just taking the Fluke itself and we call weightless Texas rigging it, but there's you can cast it a country mile because those things are pretty heavy plastic. You can skip them in places, but realistically, it's another one of those where it's kind of like the spinnerbait. It's just a cast, and when you retrieve it, you're just basically giving it some pops, letting it swim. And like what Debo was saying earlier, when he's talking about, you should always, when you start with something new, get near some shallow water that you can see the bait, and look at the action of it. Because one of the things, like when you're swimming a spinnerbait, if you stop it and give it a little pause, you'll see that skirt flare. And a lot of times you'll get a reaction by doing that. And it's the same thing with the Fluke. You're just imitating a bait fish. So you want to just give it a little twitch. And they call it a soft jerk bait as well. And that's really what you're doing, is you're just making a long cast, let it sink a little bit, give the rod tip a little twitch, just enough to kick that thing back up in the water column and let it, kind of fall back down, and let him hit it on that. And then you can reel up a little slack and give it another pop. and the same thing. So Fluke is very versatile. I mean, Gene Jensen, the Fluke master, has built a whole community, because that was his and is his favorite thing. But you can also take and tie a snap swivel or just a swivel, like a foot and a half up from the hook, so that you eliminate some line twist, but then you add just a little bit. You're almost making like a baby Carolina rig. Again, that may be a little bit more than for what beginners need, but it gives you a way, and that's probably something I'm going to be throwing quite a bit next week. As we're hitting these fall, I know we're talking about beginner baits, but the time of the year it is, these bass are getting ready to start hammering the heck out of everything. And a Fluke is really good this time of year for that. But it's a very simple bait. When the bass hit it, they'll hit it, hang on to it, and you don't really have to set the hook too hard. Just really lift and start reeling, and you'll drive that hook into them. And it's an easy bait to learn, but it's really effective all the time.
Yeah, and it's also a good follow-up bait. So, for a lot of beginners, like you said, Gramps, you might start out with one spinning rod, and don't ever listen, I am fully aware that I have more gear than I need, but don't ever think that, I'm trying to tell you that you need a ton of gear to be successful. I started out with one bait caster with one spinning rod, and then got to one bait caster and had one of each. Fish with what you've got. That's to me always the biggest thing. You look at the guy out there grinding on the basketball court with tore up shoes and a basketball is 10 times better than the guy that comes in with flashy shoes, flashy jersey, because that dude's just out there grinding. He just wants to play the game. Same thing for fishing, man. Just get out there with whatever you've got. If you have a kayak, if you don't have anything, if you got an old beat up 1970 bass boat, it doesn't matter. Get out there and fish. So if you've only got a spinning rod, perfect. But if you've got, a bait caster, you're throwing a spinnerbait and you bring it by a log and you see a fish come out and flash on it and kind of grab it. If you have that spinning rod, awesome time to throw that Fluke in too, so use that as your kind of 1-2 combo. And like Gramps was saying, you're just popping it and letting it sink. Pop it, let it sink. You can get way more in depth with it, but it's a good just pop and let it sit, do nothing.
And if you're anything like Debo and you run that spinnerbait over a tree, you always want to throw your soft plastic right at the crotch the next time, assuming there is a crotch.
Hey, talk about the crotch of the trees, man. Hey, here's a tree. Here's the crotch, but always throw your bait right here at the crotch. There's always a fish sitting there. I'll stand by that. See, this is a perfect example. Here's my arm is the log coming out, and that first spot where it gets to that crotch of the tree, that big spot right there. Boom, because they're going to be hiding under this big spot right where, I'm telling you.
I 100%.
That's where the trench hog goes.
Oh, Lord. Gramps. Once I've seen it, I can't unseen it. Oh, we're going to go ahead and just ban Gramps here. This is a family show. Good Lord. Okay, moving on.
Couldn't let that one sit.
Spinnerbait. Oh, my gosh. Ralph. What's up, y'all? So Mr. Army Outdoors. So what's up, y'all? I caught a depot dink today on a 6-cent flat side crankbait. That's bass number 122 for 2022. US Ace started down all our lakes in Kentucky to winter pool 6 day through 1st of December. Oh, wow. So
yeah,
Ralph,
that's the U.S. Army. That's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They do that to one of several of my lakes up here too.
So does that? So do you have other places you can fish it, or how? So they're taking it down 6 inch a day. Do they get to a certain depth and stop? So do they all kind of congregate, or how does that work? Or does it just mess up fishing because they're drawing it down so much?
Yeah, they'll draw it down and set a winter pool, and then it takes a bit for the fish to settle down, and then realistically there's less water to hide in, but then it's cold and they're going deep, so it's a whole different ball game in a lot of those kind of lakes.
Hey, I know about that. Up here when it gets cold, it's weird because the water freezes and you have to fish on top of the water walking out. We're going to be doing that soon. Randy, are we going to actually ice fish together this year? Randy and I didn't ice fish together once last year. Not once.
The weather, man. Did it even freeze fully last year?
It wasn't the weather. You weren't even here. You lived in Nebraska most of the year. He was out there. He was out there pulling for the Huskers. Oh, I can't come back and fish with you, Debo. I'm in Nebraska. I'm like,
Hey,
oh
Lost
my
in
gosh.
Tackle had a great comment at 8:13. Just FYI.
So Ralph, I'll cheers to the $10 bomb. Thank you, brother. You didn't need to do that. Always appreciate you supporting me, Gramps, everybody in the fishing community. Always see you out there. Appreciate you, my man, and for your service. Always appreciate you guys. Hats always tip to you.
Yeah, you'll see Ralph in some of my videos coming up as the season winds down. I've got some videos banked of Freedom Squad out fishing, so we've been on the water a couple of times with Ralph, having a good time.
I saw that, the boats and the yak. Did you guys do a boat versus yak at all?
No, we just roll
Ooh,
around,
should've.
talk the whole time. He'll be on his trolling motor, I'll be on mine, and we just,
You should do like bumper boats, boat
fishing.
versus yak, and see who wins. No, nothing. Tough crowd tonight.
You say that. The funny thing is, you'll see tournaments on the same lakes at the same times, and it seems like the kayak guys are coming out with bigger fish than the boat guys because the boat guys spend so much time running around. But
that's true. That's actually what I was talking about. So I guess we're kind of straying. I'm gonna get off a little tangent here. But Fishing for Potatoes said check out Rudd's frog video from earlier today. I haven't checked that out, but I love anything frog related. Rudd and I were actually texting back and forth about frogging. Love anything with a frog. But that's actually a good point, Gramps, because I've often wondered, and I think it might have been Ben Nowak talking about that on somebody's live. But so like going back to ice fishing. So when we go ice fishing, if y'all have ever watched my videos, you can see them on the Vex. So it's like a light thing of flashy stuff. But basically it shows your lure coming down and you can see fish coming up to it. So it's essentially like a one-dimensional view of live scope. So I often wondered with these, people are saying, oh, you should ban live scope, all this and that crap. I don't get into all that. I don't care. To me, if you can buy it and it's legal, then I'm sorry. I mean, I guess it's there. So, but what I was going to say is those guys that have that, and I've heard from them, you can see them on your live scope and stuff, but you can't get them to bite. So how much time are those guys burning? A guy in a bass boat with a fancy boat, you could really throw yourself off if you found all these fish, can't get them to bite. I've done that with ice fishing, and it's frustrating as hell. So I don't know really where I was going on that tangent, but
there is a learning curve with the live scope. I mean, it's cool being able to see everything down there. It's cool watching a fish bite your bait, but there is a learning curve to it. I hope to be really good with mine by next season, but it's fun right now just seeing them. But for me, it's like, which way are they, and then exactly how far out do I need to be casting? But it's wild seeing how many fish are down there, but it also gets frustrating at the same time.
Yep. Gramps, so I got a kick out of this, seeing Gramps' silly videos on Instagram saying, but I'll catch a fish on this before I do a frog. And I couldn't believe it when his next story was, well, I caught one. I'm like, oh my gosh, Gramps, seriously?
Yeah, here we go.
So what was
and then again.
Where are we at for lures? We're at 5, so we've got 3 more. We're at 38 minutes. We can bang this out because the next one's going to be a Ned. Everybody knows the Ned rig, but I want to give a couple things that I want to help beginners. But Gramps, I did want to ask you, what were your thoughts on the old Hellraiser? How was it catching fish? How were you fishing it? What, just kind of give us a quick overview.
So since I made a YouTube short with all those clips from Instagram, and then yesterday I put out the video from behind me, actually being on the water, so you can actually.
Oh, you got the video out of you fishing it, the Hellraiser?
Yeah, so I put that out. That went out yesterday because I'm not going to have time to do hardly any editing or anything over the next week. So I knew everybody was asking about the Hellraiser, so I wanted to at least get that video up. But I mean, it was the wildest thing. I mean, I was on the water for probably 8 hours, and I went after lunch, and I was going to fish till probably closer to dark. And I only caught one fish all day, and that was on a jackhammer. And the bite was tough. And I had a couple blow-ups on a frog, just they weren't really aggressively taking it. And then that's when I was just like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I got, an hour or so before the sun goes down. I had picked up the Hellraiser when I was down at the American Legacy Open House, and I was like, why not? As wise-assy as I was being in those stories, I was just like, this thing just looks ridiculous. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, there's no way Z-Man wouldn't have put this out if it wasn't, if it didn't actually kind of work. But I wasn't going to throw it on my Topwater rod, so I took my I call my utility rod. So, medium heavy, 7 foot, 12 pound, fluorocarbon, and I just started chucking it, and it was like a pencil bait meets a rattle trap meets a jitterbug. Just it's different, and well, you saw the results. I mean, well, you saw you saw the end results, but when you see the catches,
Instagram stuff, yeah.
So when it comes back, it does a really good job. It's like a really fast walking bait, but you kind of hear the rattles too.
So I wonder if it's resembling like a bait fish, like if they're looking up and it looks like a bait fish scurrying with added like vibration / rattle.
Yeah, I mean, but it was just nuts. And then I was like, okay, so you can throw it in, and this thing sinks. So it's like a buzz bait. You got to start on it as soon as it hits. And so you just, chuck and wind. And I was like, oh, and I knew right away, I was like, this thing's going to catch fish. I mean, as soon as I saw it in the first retrieve, I was like, this is going to catch some fish. And then I was like, okay. So I started moving up the bank and heading back towards my truck. And I noticed a few times if I really kind of gave it a pull, it would kind of like, how when you're walking a dog and you like overdo it, and it just kind of jumps real fast. I was like, oh, that's a really interesting action. So I actually started kind of, really popping the rod hard, and it would kind of throw it out of sync. And the first time I did that, fish just wow. And I'm like, oh, okay. You can work this thing several different ways. And then from there to over the next 30 minutes, it was like fish after fish after. And then right as it was getting dark, I made another cast and caught the biggest fish I've caught in my new kayak yet. It's the second biggest fish of the whole year. So it's probably about 4.5 pounds, but in inches, it was 20 1/4, which is the second biggest one I've caught all season long. And I'm like, this thing is amazing.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I'm like, dude, I bet the pike will crush this thing. Like, it's got vibration, It's got sound, it's got movement. And I actually thought because it almost looks like a suic. Like, if you know musky baits, it almost looks like a suic, like a rip bait. You rip them, they've got kind of like a nose, and then they kind of like back out like a weird looking wood bait. So it's almost like that mixed with like this chatterbait thing. But for bass fishing, I was like, is it kind of gimmicky? I don't know. I really didn't have an opinion. I got one to try. I haven't tried it. Topwater is pretty much done for us. Water was 51 degrees.
I would say just go out and throw it just so you can see the action that I'm talking about. And when you hear it, you're going to be like, holy cow. I mean,
I'll need to go throw it on a pond just so I can get footage.
That thing, it just looks goofy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just like, no, there's no way. But honestly, if go watch my video when you get a minute, just to see and hear it, and you're just gonna be like, you got to be kidding me. And of course, they call it the Topwater Chatterbait, and I understand. I called Graham. I said, dude, we're gonna be driving through the store tomorrow. I need about 3 or 4 more of those to take with me to Kentucky Lake.
That's funny.
So Gramps is gonna be starting Hellraiser squad.
Well, I mean, realistically, the way I look at it, you know how it is, like when something new comes out and the fish haven't seen it a lot yet. Yeah. My hope is like everything with, we talk about the Chatterbait Minimax, being a little bit different because we've seen them see jackhammers and chatterbaits and stealth blades. Of course, the Minimax comes out. It's a little bit different. They haven't seen much of it. And I think after them seeing buzz baits and choppos and ploppers and poppers and, every walking baits, this is going to be something, again, it's like a topwater rattle trap chatterbait jitterbug that, okay, it may be something that's different enough that maybe, when I'm especially going down to a lake that's going to be full of, 260 some of the best kayak anglers in the world, maybe I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than most of them. I was actually, when I talked to you about, I was going to go live beforehand. I was going to talk about all these baits that I'm going to go down there and throw. And, baits for the fall. And I was like, I should probably keep this stuff under the hat till I get back.
Ooh, secret. Well, the secret's out, and everybody's gonna be throwing Hellraisers down there and out fishing.
But I mean, it's just one of those things where, it's maybe it's going to be something that's going to be different enough that, if I'm kind of striking it at the right time, maybe it'd be a little different. I actually got a new crankbait that Berkeley just came out with, that Graham handed me. I can't remember what it's called, but Berkeley just put it out. I'm sure.
It's a what?
It's one of Berkeley's brand new crankbaits
from Berkeley,
and then it's the one with one of the ones like the little computer chip thing in the front. Their bill. Of course, I've got all this stuff packed up, but I haven't paid attention to it. But then I've also got a couple of the new 6 cents, baits in the flat sides that I'm going to be. So again, I'm trying to be throwing stuff that these fish haven't seen before in the hopes that I'll have a little bit of an advantage over some of my, competitors. So
you
just have to think out of the box like that sometimes.
That's what happened when the Chatterbait come out. They hadn't seen it. It just took the fishing industry by storm. Let's get back. Okay, we're at 46 minutes. Let's get back to our baits. I want to make sure we get done. Ned, number 6, is the old Deadly Nedley. So my thing for this, Rich G, I did want to shout him out. Thank you, brother. Yeah, he said, please like and subscribe. Show support for DEBO. Yeah, if you like my stuff, leave a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to it. It helps me out a ton. It's free to you. I don't ever expect people to donate or send me anything, but just hitting a quick like and subscribe on my videos, or a like and comment on my videos, helps me a ton. It's free to y'all. So if you like it, like it. If you don't, go watch somebody else. I'm not heartbroken. I get that people have different tastes. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, so the Ned rig. I'm going to say the EWG Ned rig specifically. As a bank angler, I don't say game changer very often, but once I started using EWG Ned rigs, it was actually Flatlands Tackle was the first ones I ever got quite some time ago. And Flatlands is actually still nice. If you look them up, I believe they're still a company. They had different head sizes and hook sizes. So a lot of the Z-Man are like a size 1 or 1 on, I believe, off the top of my head, like a regular Ned rig, like a 1/10 ounce Ned rig, which is great if you're around open stuff, kind of a regular hard bottom. But once you start getting around cover and stuff, even a little bit of wood and stuff, man, they attract it. The head isn't great for coming over wood. It's good for sitting on bottom, and that mushroom head kind of helps it sit up if you've got a buoyant plastic. If you've got a sinking plastic, usually they don't, but I've caught fish on both. But it's not great around wood. It's kind of around like grass. But once you go to that EWG, and I don't think I have any around here, but just imagine like an EWG hook like this. It's a Ned rig with a weight up here, and your hook is just like this, like an EWG rig, just like that. So you can fish your Ned rig like this, and you're not getting snagged all the time. So that's the one big thing I would say to a beginner is if you're new to Ned rigs, I would start with like an 8, I think is probably my best all-around size from the bank. EWG Ned rig, and old Randall's down there cracking on the
hold on.
clamshells.
Shut your mouth.
Oh, hey, did you just throw an S-bomb? Easy. There could be kids watching this, Randy.
I said shut your mouth.
Oh, I thought you dropped an S-bomb. Hey, those are pretty. Where'd you get those?
Paul sent me these a while back.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Are they the monster bass ones?
Yeah, they are the monster bass ones. So yeah,
I really like the monster bass ones because they're a bigger, thicker hook. They're one of the few companies that have that kind of stronger hook, and it's not bad to always have like a lighter hook. You just have to be aware of it depending on what you're fishing. But the monster bass ones, I really like a stout hook.
Yeah, I was really happy they came out with the chartreuse ones. Those are. I don't throw a ton of Ned, but if I'm out in like more open water where there's rocks, then I'm pulling them through those chartreuse head with those. I like the big TRDs and copper truce. That's where the Burley boys got me, is talking about copper truce all the time. But that combo. Woo.
Speaking of Cuda,
there he is.
Cuda, I'm starting another channel called Frog Squad. We can battle it out.
The funny thing is, I caught my biggest fish of the year on the Ned, but it wasn't the regular Ned. It was the Magnum Ned.
I saw that, yeah. And that was the copper
Yeah.
truce one too with the chartreuse head, right?
Yep. And then I learned after that they
Yep.
made giant TRDs. So, I mean, you talk about, like, for me, that was like a Carolina rig replacement. But that is
Yeah.
a deadly combo right there.
Good call. Good call.
Grant, you just got to bring that up real quick, just because you said you brought up the Carolina rig. Just like the Fluke, I had never thrown it, but I've thrown the Fluke this year and still have never thrown a Carolina rig.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is,
It's
a lot
not
of people
conducive
think
to bank fishing. That's why. Like, it's not a bank
see,
fishing rig.
that's actually the opposite. Because if you're a bank fisherman and you're going to a new lake or pond, a Carolina rig is a great way to figure out how deep the water that you're fishing is. If you
I'd
put
argue
that egg
Texas rig over
sinker,
that. Peg Texas rig over a Carolina rig all day.
you just feel more with the Carolina rig.
I'll
Because you're
argue that one.
You're pulling an egg sinker for the most part, and you will feel more than you would with a bullet weight.
Okay, maybe I guess I can't say one way or another there, but you're going to get snagged way less as a bank angler with a Peg Texas rig than you're going to with a Carolina rig. You're just going to catch so much more crap, I think.
If you've thrown a bunch from the bank, I would say, if you haven't, I would say give it a shot someday.
I've thrown them, and I've actually had a lot more luck with them. Maybe it depends on how heavy you're going, but like the Mojo rig, which is like a downsized finesse version of a Carolina rig, I've had more luck with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be using like ounce sinkers unless I was in a boat and, I'm casting to a point and dragging it back out. But you can go. I've actually done it where I take 2 small bullet weights and I'll point them in opposite directions. And then, that's a great way for a bank angler to do it, because you can actually put a bead in between them and get a little clacking while you're doing it and not get hung up nearly as much.
Yeah,
I only use the egg weights when I go walleye fishing.
Oh, we had to get one of those comments in. Yeah, did you guys hear about that? I don't know if you've seen it, but apparently there was some cheaters or something that like they were throwing.
Yeah, they got charged with 3 felonies yesterday.
They got their boats taken away.
It's everywhere.
Boats, yeah. Good.
I'm being sarcastic.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, good. I mean, idiots.
Hey, what number are we on? Number
6. Okay, so number 7. So Grams wanted to specifically shout out a Wacky rig stick bait, but I wanted to say just a regular stick bait. So I'm going to go from the regular side of things. Actually, my favorite stick bait of all time, especially if you're a beginner, Reaction Innovations Pocket Rocket. It's a little bit larger. It's easier to cast if you're having trouble casting like a little 5-inch stick bait. A little bit heavier with like a 4/0 EWG on it. This thing you can throw around grass, wood, doesn't get hung up easy. That's why I would say going with just a regular Texas rigged stick bait like this. But there are times, which y'all know I like to fish a Wacky rig. And Gramps, why would you say a Wacky rig is great for a beginner?
I mean, especially in the summertime with the spinning rod, Wacky rigged, you could skip it anywhere. Again, throwing it in docks, throwing it under overhangs. And again, I'm kayak fishing the majority of the time. But even from the bank, you can just throw it pretty much anywhere and just let it fall, because that natural falling, motion. And there's a reason why the Senko / stick bait is the #1 producer in tournaments in ages over everything. I think that's a stat that's been out for a good long time now. But a Senko can be a stick bait, can be fished so many ways. Since we're talking about the bait versus the style, you can Wacky rig it, Neko rig it, Texas rig it, weightless Texas rig it. There's just so many. And whatever your favorite stick bait is, whether it be the Strike King Ocho, the Berkeley General, the actual Yamamoto Senko, Yum Dingers. I mean, again, these are, you can find these baits anywhere and fish them a half a dozen ways. I mean, you can literally go buy a bag or two and fish them a dozen different ways and probably catch fish all day long. That would be like a fun challenge. How many different ways can you take a stick bait and catch fish on them?
So many ways,
You
dude.
know?
So many ways. I'll tell you
So-
one
Yeah,
that I was
Gramps.
cracking up at was we talk about Randy with the jig. Y'all check out Mikey Balls. Mikey Balls does like a wacky rig stick bait on the back of a jig. Looks stupid as hell, and I'm like, this guy is something else because I like Mikey. I've watched his stuff. I haven't recently because I'm so damn busy. But I remember that video when he put out. I'm like, dude, this dude, like, seriously, Mikey, dude's catching fish. It's like actually a thing. He's like, he talks about it. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. And I could see Randy doing this because he tries to put everything on the back of the jig. He had a 17-inch worm on it when we were worm fishing. He had a swim bait put sideways like a wacky rig swim bait. He was telling me
I
it was a
wacky
new
rigged the
thing.
paddle tail. Yep.
Yeah. You never know.
It's
Gramps.
funny you say that. I just got in a bunch of the X Zone Ned. What do they call them? Ned zones from Monster Bass.
Oh, I love
ordered
those,
a bunch.
dude.
I ordered a bunch of those to put on the back of some of the jigs I'm going to be throwing around. Football jigs I'm going to
Seriously?
be throwing around.
You're talking about these, the 4.25 inch
Oh,
ones?
what are you doing? You can't go away and not stand up. That's against the
Hey.
rules, Debo.
Hey, it's a new thing. It's a
Shenanigans.
new thing happening. Yeah, so this is
Yep,
like the
that-
regular X Zone. I like their stuff. X Zone has some cool stuff. So
Oh,
it's like a
X-Zone's
regular
awesome.
Ned, which is like a 3-inch. So like the normal one would be like that. This is just a 4.25 inch. This is what me and Dad were catching them on when we went to the Mississippi. I had
Yep.
on an EWG Ned rig. This is what I was catching them on.
Yep. I could see that all
Gramps,
day. Those things are awesome.
I do like the fact that you pointed out you can find them anywhere and everywhere. You can go into a gas station on the way to the lake, and there's a good chance
Because
that
when
they
you're
have
talking
any
about
type of fishing
beginners,
gear.
yeah.
It's there. Yep, 100%.
When you're talking about beginners, you got to be able to, they're not going to know about TW and American Legacy and Omnia. They're just going to know their local stores. So, when we talk about these different kind of baits for beginners, you're talking about where they can go find them at. And you can always find some form of stick bait in any of those shops.
Definitely.
So I want to get to this real quick. I'm trying to star people for stuff I want to talk through real quick. Omar, I keep jumping over you. Sorry, brother. Omar with the $5 bomb said, keep up the great content. My man, I never asked for the donations, but I appreciate everybody who donates to Old Debo. Notice how I have my cup turned around because I'm embarrassed to say that I cheer for this team anymore. So I'm just going to.
Why? Who did they lose to this week?
Luckily, they had a bye, so I don't have to bang my head against the wall.
To bye week, I think.
Oh, man. Yeah. And
I
then
knew
next
Indiana
week,
was playing Maryland, but I have no idea how they did.
dude, so we go from bye week to Iowa playing Ohio State next weekend, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a blowout.
Yeah. We're going to have the same fate, trust me. But, hey, Tennessee beat Alabama today.
Oh, did they really?
I saw that.
They kicked a
Dang.
knuckleball field goal. And the weird thing was they were whooping them for most of the game. And then I go and look at the final score, and it's like, oh, Tennessee wins off a knuckleball field goal when it was tied 49-49. I'm like, holy cow. Alabama must have ran off a bunch of them real fast.
Let's see. We're going to burn through. So we have one left. It's a Topwater. There was a little bit of debate over this one, but I think Gramps kind of threw this one out there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with it. Of course, I'm going to get my last dig in after this as an alternate to that. But okay, so Art Vanderlei, what temperature do you stop throwing topwater baits at? Usually, once I start getting under 60 degrees here, I'm changing up what I'm throwing. So the vegetation's dying off. I start going to like walking baits. You could throw a popper if you wanted. But as it keeps going down, I mean, really to like 50 degrees, a buzz bait, a walking bait.
Yep.
I mean, it just depends. It like every place is different. Like the place we fished today, I saw no topwater action. But when we fished the Mississippi, it was like in the mid 50s there, and they were just crushing bait, chasing them, crushed them when me and Dad were there. So it depends on where you're at. Like today, there was nothing. I didn't see a single bait fish being chased or popping at, like, it ended up being, I think, like 55 or 56 when I left today, water temperature. It didn't see a single bait fish chased. And you don't have to. I mean, you can throw a buzz bait, clear down into the, I would say 50 degrees is kind of the mark for me. Maybe some people go below that. I know there's people that have talked about, I caught a frog at 45 degrees or 40 degrees. I'm not throwing a frog. Once the grass starts dying off and stuff, I'd just rather throw a walking bait in those places. And that's coming from the guy that would throw a frog 24/7 if I could, but I just think there's better options for covering water. So that's kind of for me. I guess the mid 50s I would say is kind of a good point to, or a good spot to start weighing your options. Michael, still biting a buzzbait here in New York. I did tag that because I did want to say, yeah, the buzzbait seems to be one of those that you can keep fishing for whatever reason, man. It just puts up a big old splash and they crush it. That and a walking bait for me, it just mimics bait fish so well.
Now, before I'm let you tell them what we came up with, I want to tell you what my first choice in all history would be for that first topwater for somebody, and that would be the good old school jitterbug. For the same reason. For the same reason why I said what we came up with to be our, but again, anybody can cast it, easy to retrieve and bring back in. Don't have to worry about it sinking. And then what we came up with is basically today's modern version of the jitterbug. So that was always my favorite.
So, and actually, speaking of the buzzbait, that was another reason I grabbed it, because that was Randy's pick. Was he's like, well, how about a buzzbait? You just cast that out and retrieve it, right? Yes, but it can sink, maybe.
Yep.
And this is kind of a give or take either way, because a buzzbait is one hook. You can actually bring it over logs and stuff pretty well. It doesn't hang up very easy. Whereas I think let's just spoil it. Lure number 8 we decided on together is going to be a plopper, a whopper plopper, Chapo type bait. Now, I know a lot of people say they're dead. They don't catch fish anymore. They've lost their luster. I still catch fish on them. And as a beginner, you don't have to worry about walking them. You're not doing a bunch of crazy stuff with it. You're casting it out. You're covering water. You can throw it in, a foot of water all the way out to, 10 foot of water trying to bring fish up over points. It's a versatile little bait. So like Randy was saying, you could go with a buzzbait. The same premise. Usually buzzbait's a little bit louder, a little bit different profile. But if you fish a lot of wood and close to wood, I would go buzzbait over the plopper.
Yep. But like we said, something for a beginner. If they're just going out to a retention pond or whatever, you just chuck it out as far as you can and
Yep. Now for me, so the audible I'm going to call is the frog. And the reason is the frog is really, really hard to hang up. So as a beginner, my casting accuracy was crap, and I fished a lot of grassy lakes. So if I would accidentally get on a branch, unlike a treble hook lure, I don't have my lure 10 feet up in the tree getting snagged. And most of the time with the frog, as long as you're slow with it and it doesn't do the loop-de-loop wrap around it 27 times, as long as you're slow and get it to the branch and bring it over it, it's really hard to get hung up. So that is why I would call an audible if you fish a lot of grassy lakes or you don't have great casting accuracy yet. Throw a frog.
Frogs also come in a different variety as well. You get a popping frog, you get your regular walking frog, you get your Teckler, paddle tail, whatever those type of frogs are called, So you've got options.
Yep. I'm scrolling through comments. There's a bunch of Ned hate in here. We have a bunch of people that don't like the Ned rig. I'm behind. It's 827, but ooh, a bunch of people.
I just gotta say, Jig Squad came in hot, super hot. What time was that?
What's Kuda saying?
About
look at little Tommy got his PB Smalley today on a Ned.
841. Jig Squad says plopper, good riddance.
But again, we're talking about tackle for beginners. What we would recommend, the first 8 baits for beginners. Everybody's, hating on, this and that, and it used to be the used to coulds. We're talking about the baits that you would hand to a beginner that they could fish and not have, there's not a lot of, it doesn't take a lot to it. That's why we're picking baits that won't sink. If it's something, that's why we pick the plopper over a buzz bait. Something they could just put out there on the water, cast it as far as they can. Spinning rod, or bait caster. We're trying to keep it simple for those beginners. We're not saying these are our favorite baits or anything like that. 8 baits for beginning.
Can I hit rewind? And if can we go back to the weightless lure? I know, Debo, you kind of talked to the Fluke, and then there was kind of the weightless stick bait. I've always loved the weightless frog, like the rage toads, something like that, a weightless plastic in general that you can run across the top to. Just, I don't know why that popped in my head, but kind of going along with the weightless type of lures. I've had great luck with those in the past.
Yep. Yeah. I'm just going back through comments. I get so dang far behind. I'm sorry, everyone. Going back through, there's people saying that I'm crazy for thinking the C rig. You can't feel more with the C rig. For me, I guess I'm going back to, I haven't thrown one in quite some time, but I go back to my bank fishing days, and I know I was snagging all the time with the Carolina rig. And I just kind of shifted toward the Texas rig. So maybe it's a comfort thing. Like I just got comfortable with it enough. I could feel the stuff and learned it more.
Yep.
There have been days I know out with Dad, we threw like the Carolina rig, dragging the ball and chain with worms and caught fish. But I think probably for me, I couldn't tell you right now if I were to go out and use one over the other. Oh, this one is definitely more sensitive. I think it's probably a confidence thing, I guess. So again, different strokes for different folks. There's not one right way to fish. 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 in fishing. 2 + 2 can equal a bajillion different things in the way you fish.
It can
If that
equal
makes any
lunker
sense.
hunt dragonfly or
It
lunker hunt
doesn't
spider.
ever equal lunker hunt spider. Never. 2 + 2 never equals lunker hunt spider. Just so we're clear on that. People talking about there's still Ned rig stuff talking going on. Here's an interesting. My guy D Taylor, another Iowa boy. Actually, he might be over on the Illinois border. I'm not sure exactly where, but hopefully we get out sometime next year talking about being a Mississippi guy. Me and Randall maybe jump on the boat with him. He said, am I the only person who doesn't throw an EWG in a stick bait? I don't know who GY is. That must have been somebody above. Said EWG acts as a rudder. Oh, Gary Yamamoto, I'm guessing. Sorry, that just clicked. Gary Yamamoto said EWG acts as a rudder and messes up the stick bait action. I guess I don't notice that. I mean, even throwing an EWG, it's the shimmy, right? So it's the shimmy of it falling down. And I can tell you, maybe it depends exactly which one. But like on these, the shape of this, of the pocket rocket, it's kind of bulbous. So it goes big, then kind of small, and it just kind of aids in that like shaking. I would say the big thing, Dustin, is not using too big of a hook in your stick baits. So like 2/0, 3/0. I think Gary recommends a 2/0, if I remember right, in a 5-inch stick bait. He says smaller is better. Because once you start getting to a bigger hook and taking up more of the plastic, you're killing that action. So that's usually for me. This is a 4/0. This is a 6-inch bait, though. Like usually a 4/0 in this one. 3/0 is what I go to in a regular 5-inch. But you know, again, you might.
I've seen a lot of people start going to those straight shank flipping hooks, and with a little bait keeper at the top of it. I mean, I've got some. And I really haven't thrown them that much because I'm just so used to rigging them up with the EWG. But I think next year with the stick bait, and Anonymous Tortoise asked a question, and he's in Northern Indiana, and he says that what's your go-to bait for when you just cannot get any bites? We joke about there's just no fish here anymore. And one of mine, we're going to be what we're talking about is the weightless stick bait that I could just, cast out. But for me, another one that is our number one choice would be a small jig with the creature bait. If I can't get bit on one of those two, and we all know I love a chatterbait and everything else, but when it comes down to I just have to catch a fish, I'll throw a weightless stick bait and I'll throw a small jig with the creature bait, as a trailer. And, if I don't get bit with either one of those two, there ain't no fish in that lake.
Yeah, and it really just depends on that's the hard thing for me is when people ask me that what's the best lure when you can't get a bite. It depends on where and how you fish mostly because you have somebody like Bass Geek when we're talking to him, he fishes a lot of these reservoirs that are super clear. He's fishing deep on these. Maybe you're not fishing that way from the bank, but you've got somebody like Jim Tackle Junkie. He fishes mainly muddy water. Most of his places are super dirty. Randy and I have, we're kind of lucky. We don't have like trophy lakes here, but we've kind of got a mix. We've got muddy places, grass, it's kind of cool that we've got a little bit of everything. So, one thing I would say is like a weightless stick bait or a wacky rig stick bait with like a little weight on it. But if you're around a bunch of brush, you're going to hang up all the time on those, so it just depends what you're around. and what you're comfortable with. So, I mean, that could be a whole new show of its own of you're struggling to get a bite in clear water when it's, 60 degrees. What are you throwing? Or you're struggling to get a bite in 75-degree water with a bunch of grass around. What do you throw? Pick like random people's questions, where they have trouble catching fish. That could kind of be a fun one, I think. Not that I know everything,
Debo,
and I don't fish all around the country, but I'd
you
love
kind
to
of
try
nailed
now.
it. It's all about confidence too. It's what are you the most confident in, and what are you the most proficient in, and what's going to work in that lake. Traditionally, at least for me, I've fished on the majority of lakes. I don't go to a whole lot of new lakes, but what I commented on that. Gramps,
If anybody doesn't notice,
about?
Nick has nailed it every live. He's done a different Randy avatar that I love. Yeah, I think that's what is that what you're talking about, Gramps? People using those like the light wire J hooks.
Yep.
I've never tried that.
I hate touching trocar hooks when they're just in the wild like this because I feel like they're gonna kill me.
You're gonna bleed out because
yes.
But I actually pick some of those up too, and I've heard other people say that as well. It's just they like I guess they feel that the hookup ratio is better because how many times have we all lost fish when the bait or the worm is all bundled up down there at the bend of the hook, and it's like
Bass Hole in New Hampshire said, I'll stop throwing topwater when it's ice. Dude, that's the best time to throw topwater because you don't ever have to worry about it getting snagged on everything. You just throw it on there, drag it across the ice. You don't catch any fish, but
I still think about Hellabass's frog video.
Hellabass's frog.
I was like, that's the one time I'll throw a frog with confidence in the ear.
Oh my gosh. Hey, look and see right there. It's all about confidence in what you fish. 440 Fisherman D-Rock says, Whopper Plopper, #1 beginner bait, no question. It's all about what you have confidence in. I mean, that's the cool thing that I love about fishing is like you can argue until you're blue in the face with somebody about like a certain thing. And guess what? Both you can go out and catch the snot out of them, go into the grave saying that your way's better, So that's what's cool. You watch like the, MLF or bass and you'll see guys fishing two completely separate ways. It could be, battling for first place, doing completely different things in the lake. Or you've got somebody that's super good, a top 10 angler who's struggling on the same lake, and these guys are catching tons of fish. It's just all about place and choice. And I don't know, get nerdy on it, but it's fun to look into.
And that's why I like alternating watching between like MLF events and bass events where you're trying to find 5 big fish. Or the guys that are just catching like 100 fish today. I love the guy watching the guys catching 100 fish in a day because it's just like you got to be on fire to pull that many fish out of the water. I mean, it's crazy.
I agree. I love to catch numbers. Like, of course, everybody loves to catch big fish, but if I could go out and catch 20 pound-and-a-halfers every time I go out, that's money. I'd rather do that than go out and catch 1 to 5 pounder on the trip. That's me.
Maybe I caught 1 3 today, and I was pretty happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, this dude catching a big fish.
This time of year, I'll take any bite I can get.
Jig Squad. We actually did talk about that. That was going to be one of mine. He said, "I'll see your plopper and raise you a popper." The old Rebel Pop R in the baby bass color caught me. I don't know how many fish growing up as a topwater. That and the little Zara Spook. Actually, the puppy.
The hula.
Little Zara Spook puppy.
I was going to say the hula popper that came in my 3-pack with my Whopper Plopper or my jitterbug.
Yep.
Yeah, that 3-pack Gramps that had that. Yep. What was the other one? Was it like a grasshopper or a cricket or something? Like
it was some other oddball or like another colored jitterbug.
So here we have complete opposites. JP Harrell said, I stopped throwing the popper, doesn't seem to get any bites on it. Whereas other people saying they still crush on them, So let's see. Let's answer a few more questions. We're at hour 14. Yeah. What do you guys see? Any good questions? Gramps, I know you probably need to get to bed. You're leaving tomorrow, so I don't want to keep you too late here. Got to get your beauty sleep.
I did figure out that Berkeley bait that I was talking about. It's the new Money Badger.
Oh, the brand new one.
Yep. So I've got one of those in the truck.
Oh,
probably
see,
throw that a little
we're not
bit
all
down there as
fancy
well.
like you, Gramps. We don't get the behind the scenes hookups. So Gramps is bragging now. He gets all the cool stuff.
Oh, what color, Gramps?
So
Can you say?
It's the Firetail Green Crawl. So it's like a green crawl pattern with a little orange on the bottom.
And is it matte? Is it like a matte color versus like a gloss?
Yeah. It's like a matte, yeah.
It's
pretty sweet
dude. Looking. I feel bad that we didn't put that one in there. The Sluggo, I mean, the Sluggo was just an early version of the stick bait. I don't feel bad about that. Ooh, but a curly tail on a jig head, that was definitely one of my confidence baits too.
Dude, one of my boss, when we go fish together, he has got a bunch of curly tail grubs.
Dude, a 3-inch curly tail.
Heads. That's all he throws, and he caught 50 fish in one day.
And the cool thing about those two, like, you know, when we're fishing here, you can catch crappie on them. You can catch, and I'm not saying go like with a little one. You know, I mean, if you want to catch, you know, bluegill and all that, but I'm saying if you're looking for bass, like a 3-inch, one of those fatter Kalins. Kalins, like the fatter 3-inch curly tail, man, you'll catch big crappie on them. You'll catch wiper if you have like wiper around here, pike, bass. Yeah, Hammer, I do feel bad about that one. We should probably, I'm not going to now because we're already an hour 15 in, but good call. I recognize that, Hammer. Good call. Plopper squad. Toads. Yep. So the toad's like essentially the frog version of a whopper plopper, like a kicky foot toad. Randy likes the toads. The what is it? The Rage Strike King Rage toad you throw a lot.
Yep. And just on a EWG hook. Works for everything too. Pike and bass.
Yep. Inline spinners. The rooster tail for me was, I thought all inline spinners were just rooster tails. I didn't know there was a difference for a long time because that was the only thing I threw. Yeah, those will catch you everything. And for me, that really, I don't know that I was always catching bass on those, but they're a great multi-species. Like you can catch anything on them. But like once I started getting specifically into bass, I didn't throw them as much. Not to say they won't catch; they definitely still will, especially if you're fishing like creeks and. But then you've got the thing of bank fishing. You know, when you go into ponds and smaller lakes, they tend to grab stuff and get hung up. But
I did get another bait. Didn't I? I did get another bait from Berkeley. As I bypassed on the slobber knocker. I mean, I've got jackhammers for days, so I don't need it.
Sure.
But I did pick up 3 different colors of the new Power Bait Power Stinger. They're scented version of the Zaco. So I'm looking forward to giving those a try next week as well.
Matthew. So Matthew, let me read your first one. So he said, did you see the new Chase Baits Mud Bug? It looks great, even better than the Hud Bugs from Muddleston. Is that a thing? I don't know about that, but he said down here, which I think is an interesting one. I think you could give the Megabass Sleeper, so like the Dark Sleeper Craw, a run for its money. That Chase Bait Mud Bug. I have not seen it. I actually was not a fan at all of the Megabass Dark Sleeper, and I'm definitely in the minority for that. But that's again one that, I mean, I
think that was way overrated.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been as bad, like the way they, you know, everybody's talking about you fish it just like a jig, and it's super weedless with these fins. Dude, I snagged like 4 of them in 45 minutes, and I wanted to crack my rod in half. I'm like, that's like $30 gone right there. That was when they first came out. So
yeah,
I think from a boat, if you're fishing like, I think from a boat, if you're fishing grass lines and, you know, like sandy or, you know, like pebbly bottoms, you know, that kind of stuff. But for a bank angler, I would rather throw, you know, like a jig or something in that case. But
I remember that day. That was, I had to start laughing after like the 3rd one. You're just like,
of course you did.
I'm gonna try these out. It's gonna be something. It's like break off. Let's try another one. Break off.
It's like, how are the mag drafts so good and these things are so bad? But whatever.
Yeah, it's just a preference thing. Again, there's not 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4 in fishing. So
sometimes it equals lunker hunt spider.
It never 2 + 2 never equals lunker hunts. I need to get a shirt made of that. 2 + 2 never, like the not equal does not equal sign lunker hunt spider. And only the people from this live would get it. Everybody else would be like, what the hell is this guy wearing? It's a stupid shirt. Okay, so everybody pick one question. We're all picking one question, then we're getting out of here. We're at an hour 19. Everybody pick one. We'll all answer quick, and then we're getting out of here. I love the comments. We've still got 242 people in here. Crazy that many people would watch us on a Saturday night and hang out, but I appreciate it and love it. Let's see. I'm looking.
Somebody said it looks like Dizzle's raising his hand for the entire live
Yeah.
because of what's hanging behind him. Oh, Mr. Cutter. Mr. Cutter. Oh.
Hey, let's see.
I think I just aged this.
Was it, I don't know. I still make references of Monty Python, and like people are like, I have no idea what the hell that is, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I got my question.
Okay.
Little Rich, $8.50. One hook for the beginner to do it all. What are your choices?
Ooh.
One hook. So personally, I'm going with I think just like the style of hook, and I'm going with probably a 3/0 EWG, probably an owner, or probably an owner. I like owner hooks.
Owner's good. I would say the same thing, like a 3/0 Mustad, Gammy, whatever you can find. Yeah, owner. 3/0 EWG is my go-to. Right there. Boom.
Yeah.
Gramps has it. Was that the Ultra Point?
I think you can pretty much do everything you need to with it.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, I think 3 is about a perfect size.
Yep. Yeah, you can do almost everything with the 3. Wow. Did we all just agree on that one?
We did.
Might be the first thing we all just kind of unanimously agreed on. Wow. 2 + 2 = 3/0 EWG hook.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's see. So that was Randall's. Okay, Gramps, you and I need to find one here. Ooh, yeah, Jeff C. That was when I was talking about the Texas rig initially. That was going to be another one, the baby brush hog. I haven't had as much luck on the big brush hogs. Well, Randy's Walmart internet kicked him out. Got to pay your internet bills there, Randy. Yeah, the baby brush hogs. I've caught a ton of fish on those. Absolutely, good call out. Let's see. We've got other people talking about lures, inlines, excite baits, bounty fish. Man,
Squad did say the chigger crawl T rig always gets bit, and that again is
that's
one of my
Randy
favorite.
said.
That's one of my favorite. Probably my all-time favorite Berkeley bait is the power bait chigger crawl. Didn't really care for the newer ones, but the power bait ones, love the action on those things.
Ooh, 440 Fisherman. Here's a good one. Your favorite crankbait style. This is going to be my question. Lipless, square bill, or deep diver if you had to pick one. I would say for versatility, I like fishing a lipless more. We can get on some really, really good spring bites and kind of going into fall. I kind of missed that this year, I think. But for sure in the spring, we always usually get on a really good lipless bite. But I would say a square bill just for versatility. I'd say square bill.
Sorry about that, feller. My earbud was dying.
Oh, that's all right. We figured you had to go get some more clamshells to rattle or something.
I did. Oh, well, yeah.
Okay. The question you have to answer quick, Randall. Favorite crankbait style, lipless, square bill, or deep diver? You only pick one.
It's never going to be a deep diver. It's really a toss-up between square bill and lipless, depending on what time of the year it is. Obviously, spring, lipless is a lot better. Fall, I like the square bills, banging off of rocks and stuff like that. But overall, I'll probably go lipless.
Okay. All right, Gramps. It's you.
For me, it's a square bill. I mean, the only time I really throw crankbaits is when the water's stained, which is good majority of the time. Here in Indiana, I've got a few different colors that I like, but I've got several different square bills that are just 3 to 5 foot divers, and I'm throwing those when I'm running along the bank around the weed lines. I'll even throw them at laydowns. Kind of drag them through and around and over everything. Again, I don't throw them a bunch, but if there's some place that I'm not going to throw a jackhammer, that's when I'll throw a square bill. And I love the 6-cent square bills. I mean, I have just become such a big fan of
I haven't
their.
thrown those a ton.
I've just there's a couple of them that they just catch them, and I've just got so much confidence. I don't, I've played with a bunch of different 6th Sense stuff, but
There's that
their
word again.
crankbait,
It's a confidence thing.
Yep, it sure is. I mean, it really is. A chartreuse with the black back and any kind of stained.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems like it catches fish for me.
Okay, Graham, so you're going to be mad if I pick your question for you because it's a you question?
You beat my guest because you.
Okay, I'm picking Gramps' before we get out of here. So fish in the Southeast, always supporting everybody. This or that, white or bluegill colors for chatterbaits. So we're all going to answer it, but this is at Fishing with Gramps.
Ooh.
The majority, realistically, for me, it depends on where I'm at. I've got bodies of water that don't have many shad in them. But I will always start with a white. There's what's the
spot remover?
Spot remover, and I like to throw that with either a 6th Sense flush. Yeah, because it just looks so close. Like the 6th Sense flush pearl, a Yamamoto Seiko. I've been playing with some of the Beast Coast trailers. On the Mini Max, that new I keep wanting to call it a puddle minnow, but it's actually a juggle minnow. 6th Sense seems like they make those trailers, or well, they're soft jerk baits, but they seem to match in color so perfectly. But when I go to some place where I know bluegill is the main forage, when I go to that Brett Height Delight jackhammer, the 6th Sense flush bluegill color, it's just a perfect match. I mean, and so those are more like clear water areas, and that's where I'll throw those. And then if the water is really dirty, that's when I'll go to a black and blue, for that stuff that looks like, Mama's Starbucks. It's just that orange, muddy, milky looking water. That's when I throw the black and blue.
So here's my like train of thought when it comes to these two different types of colors. Obviously, they're very contradictory of each other. With me, I feel like I could use a white and throw on a different type of trailer and mimic more stuff than what I could do with a bluegill. With a bluegill, I'm kind of pigeonholed into that type of darker color. But a white, I can do a whole lot more with whatever trailer I choose.
Because I'll even, as far as imitating bluegill, I'll go with a green pumpkin jackhammer and a blue trailer, or I'll go with a black and blue, jackhammer, and then I'll put like a green pumpkinish, mixing, like you said, you're kind of mixing and matching, and sometimes just mixing it up like that is kind of what they want. They've seen everything else. So if you show them something a little bit different, maybe that'll be what triggers that bigger bite.
Yeah, I would say, so for me, like, I guess I have 2 points that I would make. Number one, you don't always have to be mimicking shad to throw white. I think a lot of times it stands out, even if you don't have shad in your lake. I mean, you could have crappie, if you look at the bottom of a bass from below, it's white. Wiper, whatever it is. So I don't think you just have to think, I've got shad, I throw white. Don't pigeonhole yourself to that. And I think it's like a standout thing. White sometimes, man, just stands out in like that real dirty water. So I think it's just kind of a visibility thing. For me, I kind of like going to like that green pumpkin-y, orange, purple, bluegill color when it's kind of staying. When you've got a couple foot of visibility where they can kind of see those colors. So I guess that's where I was looking for that trailer. I was throwing the new Big Bite Baits one. It's like a Zacco. It's like a segmented body, but it's got just the two long tails, like the old. Like the old, I don't have those anymore. But
I was going to say the Big Bite Baits Swim On is one of my all-time favorite.
Yeah, I'll show. Yeah, because I like running a Fluke. The problem with the Fluke, no, it's not a Fluke. It's a Big Bite Bait.
This type of tail though. Yeah.
No, I'll share it because I didn't catch any fish on it. I had 3 pike grab it when we were up at the Mississippi. I missed every single one because they were just kind of coming up and doing that deal to it. They weren't hammering it. I don't know that I can.
Stinky and slimy.
Oh, I think I said on the video, I wish Randy was here to take this off for me because I do catch one. And it was a good one.
Cut the line.
Let me go here. I just want to show you real quick because I don't know that it's going to be an amazing fish catcher, so maybe I'm wasting time, but I really, really like the way it looks
Don't
in
forget
the
to share.
water. So let me share. Yep, thank you.
Because I know they've got
Admin.
the split tail as well.
Yeah, that might be. It's like the swim on split tail something. I don't know what it's.
They've got a.
Oh.
I know Big Bite has a swim on kit, and they've got the split tail in there with them.
So this is Big Bite Baits. It was new for. I think they just released it at iCast, but they just come out. I grabbed a couple. They don't have a ton of colors in them. Big Bite.
You were
Why
there
am I not
in
seeing
the
it? I'm
third.
skipping over it.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
So when you go down, it's a Zacho something trailer. Fork. It's like the fork tail or split something or. Oh, actually, did I get him an Omnia? Maybe Tackworth doesn't even have him yet. I think actually I got him an Omnia. Oh, here it is.
Oh,
Big
while
Bite
you're-
Baits
okay.
Kamikaze Swim on Split Tails. Is this what you were talking about,
Yeah.
Gramps?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
the one.
So this is
Oh.
it. So it's like, so I talk about I like running a fluke. The problem with the fluke is I don't like a whole fluke. So you bite off the head, and then you've got the split part, and it doesn't hold
Yep.
on very long. It only lasts a fish or two. So this thing, it's a whole body, but right here, I don't know if it shows. Does it show other views? I guess not. It's kind of hard to see right here in the middle. Maybe that color will show it better. But this spot right here is segmented. So these spots here are really thin like the Zacho or Zacho.
Yep.
So it aids in like the Chatterbait motion. Then it's just two little split tails, just little like round pieces of
Yeah, I
plastic.
bet that would be nuts in the water.
It looks cool, really, really cool on the Chatterbait. Like I said, I didn't actually catch anything, but I had multiple pike come up and swipe at it. So I don't know. I want to try more time on it. But that's it. That's where we're at. Listen, thanks to
Hey,
Gramps.
wait, hold on. Let's take
Oh,
a brief second.
Yep.
Fishing the Southeast wants to say, hey, Debo, he caught, it looks like the way it reads at 9:09, he caught his first Debo dink on the custom painted Debo glide.
Ooh.
Dude, speaking of, you're going to see in a video today, only one, if you follow me on Instagram, on a Debo custom. Well, you can't really see it with the glare, but
Oh,
There we go.
hey.
I did catch one on a Debo painted custom glide, by golly.
Nice.
All right, folks. So listen, we're getting out of here. For those of you who don't know Gramps, you probably should already, but Gramps is a good cat. Gramps, where can people find you?
I'm fishing with Gramps on YouTube, fishing _with _Gramps on Instagram. And yeah, I'm glad to be here tonight.
Appreciate you, Gramps. And Dizzle, we always want to urge people to subscribe to Dizzle's channel. We want to try to get him to 1,000 subscribers without a single video. So I think you're at what, 500 now? Not even a video out yet. You got 500 subs.
No way! It can't be that high, is it?
That'd be
I don't
great.
know. Dizzle's fishing. Go look him up. Follow him. Don't. It's not Darcizzle. There was copyright infringement with Dizzle's fishing and Darcizzle. They had to arm wrestle over it.
289.
So, well,
It's 289. It's Dizzle's fishing, and Debo, I need to talk to you after we get done here. Gramps, you might as well stay along because you guys are way smarter at me at computers than what I am. So
Gramps is who you need to talk to. All right, listen, everyone. We're getting out of here. Thank you all so much for joining me on a Saturday night. We'll be back next week. Love you all. Thanks for watching, and until next time.